So, welcome Manoj to the 2040 Banker. I'll tell you a bit about what 2040 Banker is. It's a podcast where we talk about how banking has evolved in the last 2 decades and where is it headed by the year 2040. So, that's the overall theme. We had a very successful season one last year where we invited leaders from banking, fintech industries. And this is our season two. Very excited to have you here. For the audience, quick intro about you. So, you are currently the senior MD of Accenture in India, and you head financial services vertical for Accenture. And what I know that you are a very well-known name in the banking circle, and would be safe to say that if there is a CTO or a CIO who does not know who Manoj is, then probably they have never worked on digital transformation program. Would that be right to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nitin. Excited to be here. And you're right. I think I've been in India market for a long period.
Yeah.
While I lead technology services for Accenture in India, I think FS is an industry that is close to my heart.
Yeah.
And I spend most of my time there. So you're right. I think I have seen the evolution of banking technology landscape over last many years, and that has given me an opportunity to interact with a lot of CTOs, CIOs, and also CEOs and boards to understand their perspectives. So I think it has been an exciting journey, and look forward to the conversation today.
Absolutely. So, on that note, since you mentioned that you have been working with banks for the last 2 decades, I want to ask you, what were banks worried about 2 decades ago, about 20 years back? What were they worried about? And what do you see is their current priorities? How have you seen the evolution?
Yeah. So I think if you go back to early 2000, right? I think, as you know, the Indian banking skipped multiple technology generations and straight away went to core banking, right? They don't have legacy of the COBOL based that a lot of the legacy, let's say, international banks have. That's a good thing. So early 2000 was largely about core banking, implementation of CBS, effectively, you know, you used to have branches. Every branch was managing their own ledgers. From there, you're going to a centralized core banking. That was a big transformation.
Yeah.
Where you saw Finacle, FlexCube, TCS banks kind of products getting implemented. So that was the biggest wave, I would say, where they were adopting to core banking. The second thing that kind of happened during that period is the bank started expanding access, the branches, and second, the ATM network, right? So it was all about expanding access to the Indians, right? Through the centralized core banking, many branches, more ATMs.
Yeah.
Then you also saw emergence of private banks who started coming up with more customer centricity, right? More customer service oriented models than the traditional product centric models, right? And you could see the younger generation moving towards that. I remember, I started, going to the private banks because there was less queue, more this thing. So I think it was a very interesting period. But then I think the internet phenomenon had happened.
Correct.
So I think the adoption of internet started. Internet banking was the first priority, right? So first, I would say 2000 to 2010 was all about expanding the access through core banking, central core banking, more branches, more ATMs, and movement towards internet banking as a first step. That's what it was. Also, the emergence of customer service oriented models rather than just this is the product and whether you want to buy it or not, right? So that's what I would say is 2000 to 2010. 2010 onwards, I think then the explosion of smartphone, right, leading to mobile banking. And also, I think along the way, I think Indian government started laying the groundwork for digital public infrastructure, right?
Right.
Then you saw Aadhaar,
Yeah.
then, Jandhan, then UPI. So a lot of these things, started coming. So you had a mobile banking, then you had the DPI, then effectively, I would say, uh, you know, building the base. You also saw some, I think, digital native bank patterns coming,
Mhm.
right? Uh, they haven't survived, right? But what is credible is, our big banks adopted technology very fast.
Mm.
Digital, the way they rotated to digital, and I was part of, a very large public sector bank. Was worried about, my average customer age is more than 48 years, right?
Oh wow.
How
Okay.
do I get young customers?
Yeah.
And this was back in 2014, right?
Okay.
And we kind of helped them with coming up the first wave of digital transformation, next gen branch,
Mm.
then moved on to do mobile wallet, right?
Correct.
Towards the end of it, UPI came. So I think this went through. So I think the digital transformation took over in the, I would say, 2015 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think it moved to API banking.
Correct.
Right? I know you do
Yeah.
a lot of work in that space.
Yes.
Open banking,
Correct.
probably last 4 or 5 years, is where ecosystem, right, working with the fintechs, account aggregators, and all that is playing out, and basically evolution of banking as a platform,
Mm-hmm.
as a service. That is the theme that is running. Uh, so that's where I think we are in the last, I would say, 25 years,
Yeah.
starting from core banking
Yeah.
to now AI is here,
Yeah.
and we can talk about that. But I think now that's on everybody's mind. But I
Yeah.
think the the groundwork has been done. I think the enterprise architecture, and we do a lot of work in enterprise architecture space.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there is tech debt that the banks are carrying in
Mm-hmm.
terms of legacy, highly customized application. So I think the biggest challenge for them will be how do you make AI real, in a brownfield scenario where you have large banks have 1,000 to 2,000 applications.
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually infuse AI
Mm-hmm.
and drive more revenue, bring in operational efficiency and the customer delight
Yeah.
that the board and the end customer is expecting?
Great. That's a great summary, Manoj. One thing I want to double click on. So you mentioned that there was some digital native banks that were coming up, but that did not fly that well. Which models were you actually referring to there?
See, I think the neobank kind of model, and
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
at that point in time, I remember mid 2010s, 2014, 2015, uh, globally, you had digital native banks,
Correct.
digital challenger,
Yeah.
digital native,
Yeah.
neobank, and there was a worry in
Mm.
India that if the banks don't adopt digital, you will not see those names after few years. But I think credit to the leadership. I think starting from SBI,
Mhm.
right, the largest
Yeah.
bank,
Yeah.
to let's say the top 5 public sector bank, because you would think it will be difficult for them to or slow to rotate. They have adopted the technology
Mhm.
wholeheartedly,
Yeah.
right? And they have not just retained their market share, also grown it.
Correct.
Of course, the private banks were always at the forefront of technology. So what has ended up happening is, I don't think any of the large banks have disappeared.
Mm.
Banks have merged,
Mm.
right, and become even more, customer centric. And I think their technology footprint is even stronger than before.
Yeah.
So I think there was a worry that we will have fintechs will take away the market share. But I think what has happened is the collaboration between banks and fintechs as an ecosystem is driving growth for both.
Yeah.
And it's good for customers like us.
Right. And one follow-up I have. So the aspect that you mentioned, that banks had to rethink their architecture several times. So was it mobile banking, payments, and then API banking, so on and so forth. So typically, how does a bank approach it? Let's say a mobile banking or API banking comes up. Is it like that they would want their existing vendor or their existing core to upgrade the capabilities, or would they look at adopting something totally new in that particular space?
See, I think the answer it depends on the bank and their own maturity of buying and their own technology maturity. And this build versus buy is always a challenge. But traditionally, buy was the focus.
Okay.
So you would see a lot of COTS applications being bought, whether it is credit card, lending, core banking, of course, right? And multiple such. And the banks ended up with many, many such products and then finding very hard to maintain them. Their run cost is very high. The biggest challenge I see that the banks have today is average run to change budget 70-30. You're spending 70% on run and change is 30. Ideally, it should be 50-50, right? The leading global banks are getting there, but they had to invest heavily. And run, is taken up by software licenses, hardware maintenance, SaaS, cloud, those kind of cost. So I think the attempt is now, how do you free up more budget for transformation, especially when AI is coming? In last few years, I see private banks have taken steps to set up their own engineering teams and start, taking over development in digital data and now AI, right? Which I think is a good balance that needs to be struck between when you get a partner versus a vendor. I think getting a partner for the capability they bring in and having your own team to protect your own IP. I think that's the balance the global banks and therefore now some of the private banks are trying to strike. And I think there's still some, time to go before we see where the model evolves to, right? So the banks are sort of developing their own GCCs, right? GCC, global banks have GCCs in India. So Indian private banks are developing their own TCCs, technology competency centers, and their own engineering teams, trying to develop, integrations, APIs, which need to be more agile, digital data, and now effectively AI. So there is that trend that I see. And we have to see where the actual balance is. I think the banks will need to strike a balance, right? Between where they take a partner, what they buy. Typically, where you have differentiation, you should build it and have it in-house. That's the strategy. You would see global banks. Therefore, GCCs are built, right?
Correct.
And that's, I think, where it will go. That where you have differentiation, you need to build it. Where I think, it's kind of commodity, you buy it and avoid too much of customization, right? When you're buying. But that can create, that is largely one of the reasons for big programs failing also, right? Where you get into big customization.
Makes sense. So from a TCC perspective, the trend that you are seeing today is around data stacks and also something on the AI stacks.
Correct.
That's what we are seeing.
Exactly.
All right. And since you touched on the topic of bank transformation, typically what do you think, how is a bank transformation project different from any other industry? would it be similar for, let's say, a similar sized retail organization, or there are very different nuances involved?
See, I think because I have the privilege of interacting with other industries as part of my role, and also being close to banks, there's a key difference between banks. There is no manufacturing. There is no R&D. A big supply chain is not the problem for a bank, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the product manufacturing actually happens in your systems, right? There is no plant. So for banks, therefore, technology is paramount, very, very critical differentiator for them. So therefore, any transformation project, I think choosing the right technology is important, but it is not always about technology. I think the biggest mistakes I have seen is not enough focus on process transformation, right? And it becomes more important in the age of AI, that if you take your old processes and try to overlay AI, it's not going to give you the benefits.
Correct.
Right? So the process reimagination, process reinvention, I see less focus is there, right? And it is important, right? Technology definitely is most important because, in a bank, if mobile app is down, you can imagine what happens. That may not necessarily happen in a consumer goods company, right? If something goes down Sunday evening,
Correct.
you may lose some sales, but you can recover out of it, right?
Correct.
But a couple of hours downtime in mobile banking, Sunday evening, you will get a lot of social media backlash. You will lose customer. Also, regulator will come after you and possibly shut down your business, which has happened, right? So focus on regulatory compliance, security is much, much higher in a bank, right? So where the projects underestimate that time or don't think enough have struggled. Process reimagination. And the other thing where I see a challenge, and I was recently talking to a large private bank CIO, his view was, look, AI can solve the problem of coding, right? Coding becomes commodity. But the real challenge I have is I don't get the right business stakeholders participate in requirements phase. If they participate in requirements, they don't end up in UAT, which leads to 30-40% churn, or requirement volatility, as we call it. It leads to extended UATs, right? I think those are some of the things that need to be done. So in summary, try to reimagine the process, get the right stakeholders, participate in requirement phase, make sure you are making prudent decision while choosing the technology stack, whether it is buy versus build, depending on cost benefit. And your testing, UAT, you need to have the right stakeholders there, focus on regulatory compliance, security. Adoption also is very important. You can roll out a very good, solution,
Right.
and nobody adopts it. We do a lot of work in data analytics. So we build very smart models, machine learning models. One of the things we have seen is, unless there is a top-down focus,
Correct.
and you have champions in each of the departments, adoption of the output of the ML model needs to be incorporated into, needs to be given to the right channels, right? So that the channels actually execute. You need to run the right campaigns. You need to have measurement rigor. If you don't have that, you can have a very good data platform which is churning out nice models, but the output is not getting used. You will never see the benefit. Right? So adoption is also very important.
Yeah, makes sense. And what you mentioned, see, one is, of course, the technology, second is process, and third is people. Right? On the people aspect, you just mentioned that the problems are where, let's say, if the business sponsor is not getting involved at the requirement stage, or let's say later at a UAT stage properly, then we have issues. Now, do you see with all of what is happening on the AI side, people have started adding AI team members in their meetings now. Do you think there would be a stage where we can see business stakeholders using some kind of an AI bot, which would later start working with the technology teams to give their requirements and later also participate on UAT? Or would this remain a fiction for some point till some time?
I think this is something I was debating with my own team and also with one of the clients I mentioned, who said that the problem is in requirement and UAT.
Yeah.
And while I think, the coding part is solved for,
Yeah.
how do you solve this? Because
Correct.
so I think two things. Right now, I think I'm seeing, decent gains being made leveraging AI in specific areas like customer service, marketing, knowledge management. We have done some work. I think that's largely generative AI kind of capability. The new agentic AI, I think, does require first process reimagination, right? I think you can't take the old process and try to overlay agents on top of it. That won't work. The way you have to capture the goals of the agent, what the agent is supposed to do autonomously, is very different. So I think both sides, I would say the service provider and also bank, need to adopt to the new way of working more than anything.
Yeah.
Right. So the way we say, is worker, workbench, right? So work is the ways of working. The ways of working have to totally change.
Yeah.
I think, if you want to go beyond POCs to enterprise grade,
Right.
production ready, AI software, then you need to adopt the new ways of working,
Yeah.
right? It's not just about vibe coding. I think that is solved for, but then you have many POCs, but nothing in production. So that I think is the first thing, the process reimagining. The second is, I think, the understanding of the costs that will come and hit you, is not that deep. Okay. And I foresee a risk of we having the same challenge we saw after cloud adoption, where suddenly you saw bills going up and, questions being asked.
Correct.
And the measurement of returns, right? What benefits you get.
Yeah.
One of the CTOs tells me, and the CTOs are worried about it, right? Because his view was the cost will be visible, but how do I measure the benefits? Right? If I do a credit assessment memo, right, using an agent, now the work that is being done by 15 people might be done by 7-8 people.
Yeah.
But how do I make sure that productivity benefit is translated, more work is given to them, or we have to train them to do something else? So there is a big, shift in thinking on how you have an understanding of the cost, you have an understanding of the benefit measurement.
Correct.
You have to change your ways of working. Of course, Workbench is you have to use the right platform, right? Either you have your own, in-house platform, on-prem or cloud, whichever. So you have to use the right Workbench. You need to have the right ways of working. You need to train your talent, right? Both the business side and technology side, right? From giving requirements to actually testing and using it on the ground is very different.
Yeah. But see, very interesting what you brought in, that the cost is immediately visible today for anything that we're trying to do new. Now, currently we may talk in the context of AI, but the same was true for mobile banking and API banking and everywhere. And mobile banking back in 2007 and 8, people would have seen for the next 5 to 6 years at least all the cost coming in, nothing materializing on the benefit side. What would be your prediction on the AI side, and what kind of vision or a board, not only the CTO, what kind of vision a bank board should keep, and what kind of time span they should keep before they start materializing benefits on this AI wave?
We are presenting to the boards, talking with the CTOs on this. I think there's no doubt you need to adopt AI, right? But I think you have to make prudent choices. You should not miss the functional part of it. I think functional part becomes most important when it comes to AI, right? For example, you're trying to do it in lending, credit underwriting. Like I said, the process was probably, see, in the digital wave, one of the probably errors, mistake that were done is the physical era processes were overlaid on digital software. Okay. But that won't work in AI. Okay. And you will need to reimagine the process.
Yeah.
Unless you start reimagining the process, you will have a challenge. So I think you have to choose an area. Okay. You have to choose the right workbench. Like I said, the platform that you will use, you need to have the right talent. If you don't have it, work with a partner. But eventually, you have to build the right talent, both tech side and business side, right? And then my view is you have to pick up a right use case and start experimenting, but just not from a POC view. Because what has happened in last 18 months, many banks, everybody will say, yes, we have done it.
Yeah.
But then you ask what's in production, the answer, will be very different, right? Like I said, progress made in few areas, generative AI cases. But I think agentic, see, eventually you will see it embedded in all the processes. Okay. And it will give a lot of benefits. I think we just have to think about how do we make the journey smooth rather than, turbulent journey. I think there is no doubt that all of our banks, I think where we are sitting, like I said, during digital transformation, there was always a doubt whether we will. But I think as a country and especially the banks have adopted very well.
Yeah.
And they will. The good thing is we don't have, like I said, large COBOL based core banking systems, etc. Right? So we are okay. I think integration becomes important in agents, right? The choosing the right workbench and making sure the integration, the legacy softwares are able to integrate quickly, right? Because the AI agent on its own won't be able to make much difference, right? So I think process reimagination, making sure your legacy landscape is able to interface, if not, then modernize, right?
Yeah.
And start with use cases, pick up champions. And I think top down, sponsorship is required in this, because you are right. The benefits may not be immediately visible, right? But you will see cost coming in. But it is imperative for the banks to adopt it. There is no doubt about it.
Correct.
I think question is how do you have to start the journey. You have to be a little bit prudent so that you don't end up spending a lot of money and then, don't see much outcome. Then the enterprise loses enthusiasm about it. So you have to pick up use cases. So our advice generally is, think about all the three aspects: worker, workbench. All three need to be addressed. The operating model, the talent model, not just it's not about whether you use, Microsoft or AWS or Google or anything like that, or you build your own, right? It's about what is the outcome it will give, right? Where will it make a difference? Are you reimagining the process?
Yeah. So for a moment, I just want to park all the technologies like AI and all, and I just want to discuss purely on the basis of scale of a project. So, and I know you have executed very large scale projects with the banks in last few years. let's say there is a project with a high budget, anything between $50 to $100 million project. Just on the sheer size and scope, what are some of the areas that you have seen that could actually lead to the failure of the project? And what are the key things that one should keep in mind when executing such large projects?
See, in a large transformation program, my own experience is the software itself never fails.
Okay.
So there is no program where I've seen, oh, this software didn't work. That's maybe very small percentage. The big one is you did not have the right business sponsorship, right? Second is right people, stakeholders. With the sponsorship comes participation of the right stakeholders during requirement phase and UAT. Right? If you have the sponsorship, when I set up a new bank, when there was sponsorship, we could do UAT in 6 weeks. But I have seen 6 months was, medium-sized projects. So I think sponsorship is very important. You need to have the right sponsor who will make sure the right stakeholders come in the right phases and participate, with full intent.
Yeah.
Right? Second is there is a tendency for everyone to think they are very different or differentiated from others. The real thing is your differentiation is probably 10 to 15%, not more, right? But then we end up customizing 80%.
Correct.
Right?
That's
in most
true.
places.
Yeah.
That just increases the cost, increases the time, and people lose interest. And what happens is because it's a running train, right? You already have some software that is there. Changes are happening in our economy, which is growing, and customers that are demanding. You will have changes happening on the existing platform, and the new platform just goes for like 2-3 years. You can't stop this train. You will keep on building, and then the catch up becomes very difficult.
Correct.
And the business case, then kind of goes for a toss, wherein too much customization, too much time gone.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with this one.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the vision, why are we, the business outcomes, why are we doing this, right? The business sponsorship and controlling the customization. So one place where, we set up a bank, we had 150 customizations given by the team in core banking. Now we escalated to the CEO. We sat down, came down to 35.
Yeah.
And that helped us go live in 8 months. Otherwise, we could not have gone live. I think that level is required. If that doesn't happen, then, then the programs will run forever. People lose interest. Service providers also lose interest.
Correct. That's true.
And, the program is not a success. The last leg of it is you can build a great system. But if you don't focus on change management and adoption, then anyway it fails.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the last leg, which is largely ignored. You build a very beautiful CRM system. Nobody's using it. Right? Then you have a problem.
Yeah.
So that is another thing that mostly ignored. Right? Nobody focuses on this. They think, oh, it's a bunch of training that we have to do.
Yeah.
But, one of the CEOs, I remember, a non-banking, but basically he said that, look, unless you tell the person who is going to use it how it will change his life positively,
Correct.
he's not going to use your system. Right? He will continue to use the earlier system and say this system is not. So you have to take their buying early in the program. Where that has happened, they have also participated wholeheartedly in UAT on time and then adopted the system. Where that has not happened, programs have failed.
Got it. So sponsorship, and second is change control.
Change management, adoption.
Control, this is the key for large
are
projects.
the key things. More than, I would say, the software itself, the platform itself.
Right. And what about the global banks? How do you see global banks compared to India? Is there anything that India can learn from the global banks, and what global banks admire about India?
See, first thing, what they admire about India is, I think, obviously everybody is envious of the digital public infrastructure
Yeah.
that we have set up and how banks are able to leverage that. That's, I don't think other countries have it.
Sure.
The way we have UPI and Aadhaar, and which helps in KYC. So I think we do have that. So they look at that as an advantage for us. The second is scale. Our largest bank has customer base more than Europe. So whatever we build is at a massive scale that
Correct.
you will not have in any other market.
Yeah.
So in our organization, when I go and present case studies that, we have built digital banking for 8 crore customers,
Yeah.
with whatever, 1,000 TPS, they are shocked, right? So the system that we build are at scale, okay, at scale, and we have to therefore have the resilience built into it when we are building it. Where the global banks are good is, I think, the investments in technology, they are ahead of us. I think they have invested a lot, much ahead of us, right? And they have seen the benefits of it. JP Morgan Chase is a good example where we have seen investments translating into real benefits, customer delight, right? And I think the whole focus on risk management, regulatory compliance, cybersecurity is much higher in global banks.
Okay.
They pay special attention and have higher budgets on that. We are still, I think we are getting there.
Yeah.
Right now with our regulator tightening, the norms and doing audits and all that. I see that part happening, right? But the cybersecurity part, I still feel is bit underinvested, and especially with the new things that are emerging.
Yeah.
It's more risky,
Correct.
right? Especially in the age of AI.
Yeah.
Because banks are built on trust, and I think you have to protect the trust of the customer, right? So that's where I think the underinvestment in cybersecurity. So we have to learn from global banks on how to invest in certain areas where they have, which we have not.
But what do you think is actually the reason behind that? And you earlier also mentioned on this aspect 70-30 run change, bringing that to 50-50. Why is there a difference between the way Indian banks are operating and how the global banks are doing?
I think there is a conscious effort, I would say, happening within the top banks in moving to a better run change mix. And like I said, the global banks invested in technology in the 70s, right? So they have been at it for a long period.
Yeah.
I think we are behind, and we have had advantages because we leapfrogged generations.
Yeah.
So we don't have COBOL
Correct.
kind of system. But yes, I think, that if you see our technology expenses as part of operating expenses is going up, right? Going up to 10% or slightly higher in some banks. So there is investment that is happening. There is that realization that, the bank senior management boards have. So I think it's matter of time that we will get there. It's just that we started late.
Sure.
In that journey.
Understood. So on that aspect, what you mentioned, the technology spend versus the operating spend, how have you seen this technology spend change for the last 2 decades? Has the technology become cheaper or costlier for the banks in India?
So the large banks spend $1 billion plus.
Yeah.
So I think in absolute terms, it is way, way high.
Yeah.
In terms of percentage of operating expense, also it has gone up.
Okay.
But so have the number of customers and number of transactions.
Yeah.
So I think on a per transaction basis, it is less. It has reduced.
It
has
reduced.
cheaper. Yeah,
Okay,
it has
okay.
become cheaper, right? But in absolute terms, it is high. And like I said, for banks, technology is at the heart of it. That's where product manufacturing, so all of the non-banking industries where they spend, I think all of these need to be spent in tech, right?
Yeah.
For them.
Right. And let's say if you are advising a mid-sized bank today and you have to tell them what is the right mix of technology spend, what would your advice be for them?
See, I think that's a journey. Many of them are sitting on 70-30. I think moving to 60-40 in next, I would say, 5 years is what I'm very bullish about the operational spends, the run spends coming down using AI, right?
Yes.
Especially in the services. And if the banks modernize, okay, and selectively move away from, so talk to mid-sized banks, you will be, surprised. Many of them have 10, 15 loan origination system.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Even if they start consolidating, right, and using AI to build new ones,
Correct.
custom, right, that itself will start bringing down their operational run expenses because you will have to spend less on licenses and stuff like that, right? It will be more agile. You can launch products quickly, stuff like that. So I think they have to work on optimizing their application portfolio, the infrastructure portfolio, make the right choices in moving to cloud versus on-prem and all that. There has to be a balance, right? Because it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think aiming for 60% run, 40% change, I think that itself is a good thing.
Okay.
Start.
Understood. Okay, so I have a few more questions about what we expect in the future. Before that, we'll do a quick rapid fire round with you. So you can answer quickly and there will be series of questions. Okay, so first question, one bank that you admire globally.
I would say JP Morgan Chase. I think what they have done in terms of investments and also in AI data, I think is phenomenal.
Great. And product or distribution?
See, I think product.
All right.
Sort of.
Build or partner?
Depends.
Okay. Speed or risk control?
I would say speed with risk control.
That okay. We'll take that as an answer. Branch or app?
It is app.
Okay. Fintech or bank?
See, it's banks.
Yeah.
With collaboration with fintech.
Sure. So I'll take bank as answer.
Yeah.
Data or talent?
I think data.
Okay. Regulation or competition?
Regulation.
Okay. Why so?
Trust.
Okay, because I have a very different view on this. I always, of course, there has to be balanced regulation, but I believe the economies that would promote competition would create a larger pie.
I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
It's slightly tricky question.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say customer is the priority more than regulation or competition.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Sure.
Third choice.
Okay, last one. Banking as a service or direct distribution?
I think banking as a service is where it will go to. I think the way I see it is after 10, 15 years or 20, 40, as you say, right? People, you have to deliver banking services at the point of consumption.
Yeah.
Right. So will be largely invisible, AI driven, and therefore, banking as a service plays a big role in that. So,
right. Okay. So that was a rapid fire round. And then I will come back to our standard questions. And the next section is largely about the future of banking and how do we see several technologies and things evolving around it. Okay, so what do you think in 2040 on the technology side and on banking especially, would the winners be the service based companies or product companies or companies who are AI native or something else?
I think the winners will be the companies or the banks that focus on end customer. Okay. With appropriate risk control and have the right ecosystem and adoption of tech. See, AI is going to be much more embedded anyway, right?
Mm.
That is a given. I don't think there is any choice.
Yeah.
You will see AI embedded in all of the processes,
Yeah.
right? Across the banking value chain. I think we are at the start of it. So in 15 years, it will be everywhere.
Mm.
It is unlikely that the customers will open a banking app per se as the UI.
Mm.
They will probably converse and, one example scenario could be, can I buy, I'm a customer in Pune, can I buy a 1.5 crore house in Aund, for example?
Mm.
I ask that question,
Mm.
then it kind of goes through my cash flow. It looks at the properties, it assesses my credit worthiness, and it kind of goes and, accesses APIs and gets me a deal
Yeah.
or, right product
Sure.
from the bank
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's how it will evolve, where you ask a question and the autonomous agent will do a lot of back-end working and give you the right response. That's where I think it is heading.
Mm.
But obviously it will need to be done with the right, I would say, security, compliance,
Mm.
and, customer consent, right? All of those things need to be in place, but that's where I think it is heading. It is
Mm.
unlikely, and apps will be used even for MSMEs, right? The way I see it, right? That's where I think there's a lot of focus that I see because they drive our economy,
Mm.
right? Is we take weeks today to do KYC and lot of things and giving a loan and stuff like that, right? In the world tomorrow, you could have autonomous agents, looking at your digital invoices, GST, and everything that is available, and just sort of underwrite and do it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So I think banking will be consumed at the point of consumption, wherein, let's say, MSME is lending, selling on an e-commerce site, right? And his sales increase. Therein, the eligibility for higher loan
Yeah.
is given to him.
Yeah.
Because that data is there.
Yeah.
Something like that. So.
Understood. And in terms of the bank budgets of technology, the way we have seen last 2 decades, it has gone up in absolute terms, like you mentioned. What do you think? Would there be a similar kind of explosion on the budgets, or would AI help optimize those budgets? How do you see that?
See, I think there will be next few years probably an increase as we learn to use this technology to deliver outcomes. But then we will optimize, right? And it will lead to optimize cost of delivering the services to the customer.
Understood.
It will. There might be a spike short term because we are still not clear about the underlying cost that will come and hit us. In the long run, it will reduce further. Cost per transaction, cost of delivering services, and all that. It will.
Got it. Okay. So, last bit I want to talk about is on the talent side. So everything happening around AI and so much transformation in the banking space and whatever we are talking today about the banking space. and people look forward to you and your company today as an aspiration who are just getting out of college, what advice would you want to give to them? If there is somebody who is just coming out of the college and they want to become a future bank CTO, what is the path or what is it that they should do for the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think three foundational skills for anyone wanting to be a leader in this space. Data, so data engineering, AI engineering, leveraging AI, and the way you go about doing the development. The fundamentals of software engineering are still required, right? Even if you use Claude or any other tools.
Correct.
So you cannot miss those. And the last will be cybersecurity. Okay.
Yeah.
So these three, I think, will become of utmost important: data, AI, cybersecurity, for any future bank CTO.
Yeah.
They are, anyway, I see that becoming critical. They will be even more critical. These three. The rest of it is fine. I think a lot of it will get solved by the AI agents, doing the bit for you.
Great. So I'm done with most of my questions for today. But one final question I have for you. So today we discussed about a lot of possibilities, what can happen by 2040. And we also made a lot of predictions like agents actually underwriting MSMEs and then actually finding the right deal for you and placing an order or getting the eligibility done. When we meet again in 2036 and we invite you for this podcast, what do you think? Which of these predictions that we discussed today would have actually come true?
I think, most of them will.
Okay.
I'm a very conservative person. I don't think I have made any very outrageous predictions.
Yeah.
I think most of this may come true much earlier than that, actually. May come true by 2030.
Yeah.
And I think it will be good for all of us and India if that happens, right? So
Absolutely.
that's my hope.
So great. Thank you so much, Manoj, again for taking out time and sharing your thoughts with us today. It was very helpful for me personally. And I'm sure whoever would listen to this, whether they are from the banking space, fintech, just getting out of college, or the intertechnology world, they will learn a lot from your experience. So thank you so much again.
Thanks a lot for inviting. And to everyone who listens to this, I think there's a lot of exciting work to be done. So hope you find this useful and, ride on that journey.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks.